All right, true or false? The Lions will not win the 1 seed in the NFC.
True. You go ahead.
They won't.
So, true.
True.
I guess the way that was worded.
Yeah, it's true. They're not going to be the 1 seed.
No. Too much going on there. Too much going on in Detroit.
So, yeah, they're 12-2. Eagles 12-2. Vikings 12-2. They obviously face the Vikings in Week 18.
So if the Vikings win out, it's as simple as they'll be the 1 seed. That's amazing.
And they have the Seahawks, Packers, Lions. So it ain't the easiest road.
No.
For the Minnesota Vikings. God, I hope the Packers beat them. All right. Would George Pickens playing have changed the outcome of the Pittsburgh-Philly game?
Yes.
No.
It may not have changed the winner or the loser, which I guess is the outcome, but the game looks different. It feels different when George Pickens is in there. Yes, it's called confidence and an absolute stud on the outside. It's clear to me that the game would have been different.
So let me ask you, is it an indictment of Russell Wilson that when Pickens isn't there and you can't just throw the ball up, that he's not effective?
It's an indictment of the talent. Their wide receivers stink outside him. Calvin Austin is a good player in the role he is. The role he is not a number 1 or number 2 even wide receiver. He's a gadget type of wide receiver.
Pretty good tight end, though.
He's a great number 3.
They're a pretty good tight end.
Solid tight end. Not a vertical threat tight end.
No, but yeah, it's a little indictment of Russell.
They can't spread it around.
Deep talent, deep balls.
Well, that's all he does. He throws them up and hopes the guy goes and makes the play.
You don't have to look any further than Patrick Mahomes to know that deep balls are a product of the talent around you. When he had
100%.
Tyreek Hill, he was one of the most prolific deep passers in NFL history. When he lost Tyreek Hill, where have they gone? They've been non-existent the past few years.
But to Pete's point, they had to reimagine their offense and do things differently. Yeah. So
and he reimagined his offense and himself. And Russell Wilson didn't reimagine himself on Sunday.
Be like telling Michael Jackson he can't dance on stage anymore.
Is Pickens back this week?
CBD. I mean, we don't.
These things
we're trying to predict George Pickens. He could be fully healthy.
Well, okay, but if he doesn't play this week, or if he plays this week and he struggles against the Ravens, then you got concerns.
Yes, the Ravens should be a defense that, with him playing, they should put points. All right. Did winning the game against the Jaguars hurt the Jets more than help?
No.
Meaning from a draft prop. So they would have been drafting at.
Would they move a spot?
They would have been drafting 5. Now they're drafting 8.
I mean,
no, because the value is at the 1 and 2. Because if you don't,
I think 1, 2, 3, 4 is where you want to be. I feel very strongly that the top 4 picks are going to be the 2 quarterbacks, Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter.
You think who is it?
Abdul Carter, the Penn State edge. I think
Micah
those
Parsons
4.
light.
Yeah, I think those 4 will come draft day be the consensus.
The kid from Michigan might end up in that top.
Graham?
Yeah.
Bro,
he's very good.
That guy from Penn State gives me nightmares.
I would love him.
I'll never see him ever on a football field. He gives me nightmares.
I think it's Hunter and Carter are like.
Carter has the ability, but what are his numbers? That they ain't great, are they?
I'm not sure. I haven't looked at him.
Yeah,
I just know he's.
But anyway,
I get it.
I watched the tape. I don't look at stats. I'm not a stat nerd.
No, but you do like to see some production.
I am kidding. Yeah.
True.
So I agree, though. They weren't drafting top 4. They're honestly too good to even be. They'll win more games this year. So I don't think it's that big.
Well, for example, if Jacksonville was if somebody picked 3rd and took Travis Hunter, and Jacksonville was picking 4th, they're not taking Abdul Carter.
You don't think so? New GM.
They got 2 edge guys.
If I'm in there, I'm
they got
taking,
2 high.
If I'm working for the Jags, I'll draft.
No, you're not taking.
I'm putting Trayvon Walker at tight ends.
No, Trayvon Walker should
such a beast.
Trayvon Walker should be playing inside, is what he should be.
That's where I'm playing him. I mean, it's a 3-4 technique.
You guys are talking draft position, and I'm thinking confidence. And winning games in the NFL is one of the hardest things to do. And if I'm on the Jets, I want to have the understanding that even with everything going on this season with the Jets, we can still win football games. And when it does turn over to a more prepared, maybe knowledgeable leadership group, we have won games in the past in bad situations. We're going to be better. There's going to be a lot of carryover in terms of players. I think it's a good thing.
I've had this discussion with Pacelli, and see if you agree with me and him talking about this. It doesn't carry over.
I think winning games matters.
It doesn't. He doesn't. He agrees with me. It doesn't carry over because I'll give you an example.
New staff.
Well,
in 95, the Jacksonville won a game at Cleveland or home against Cleveland late in the year, and Coughlin came out. And he said, "Oh, it's going to carry over for next year." There was so much roster turnover and different guys on that team. How can it carry over?
You don't know if there's a guy on the Jets who maybe made a big play in that game that's going to increase.
That's different.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's different. You're talking individually.
I'm talking individual guys.
And that could carry over in a loss. If an individual player makes himself better and he gains confidence, that carries over. I agree with you 100%.
Yes.
Winning, he could get that by losing too.
There were games we lost by 20 points in Chicago, but I wore somebody out.
And you knew the next year, I'm taking that and carrying it over.
Yes.
That I agree with.
Yes.
But as a team winning, that doesn't carry.
No, it's not the same team next year.
Right.
Will the Tampa Bay Bucks make it to the NFC Championship game?
I'm going to say yes.
Ooh.
I'm going to say yes.
Well, let's map their path.
So their most likely path is that they
would have to go through Philly.
Three seed at this point. Three seed. They would play
Green Bay.
See, like I could see that being a ball game.
I think that'd be a hell of a game.
Oh,
I think that's who. I think they'd rather play They'd almost rather be the
Lions
and play the Lions.
Oh,
or the Vikings.
So they're 3 Green Bay, and then after that, you're likely playing. Because the 2 seed,
the 2 would be the
either the
Lions,
Eagles or so you'll probably travel to either the Vikings or the Eagles probably at this point.
If Baker Mayfield and the Bucks go to Philadelphia,
so then you're going to have to go to either Philly or Minnesota.
Beat the Eagles.
Right.
I don't know.
They beat him in the playoffs last year, and they beat him this year, and they beat him at. I'm
not counting Baker Mayfield out ever.
He can go win anywhere.
I'm going to say they won't. I don't think they will.
Just
because they're going to play the Packers.
I like the idea of the Bucks doing it.
I think they lose to the Packers, honestly.
It could happen.
See, that's the thing. They could lose in the first round, or they could make that.
Yes.
Yeah. And the Packers could lose in the first round, or they could make the run.
It takes is 1 or 2 bad Jordan Love throws.
I really just do think that should the Rams win the West, and then the wild card obviously stays the way it is right now, I think the only team that I don't think could make the NFC Championship game is the Commanders. That'd be very surprised if they make the NFC Championship game.
That would be the one.
That's the only, just because not that they're not good, their path will be a monster.
Right.
It'll be either Vikings or Eagles, and then more likely than not, and then
they're not. No, but the rest, those other teams, they all can make a run.
Yeah. All right. Will Jerod Mayo be a one and done in New England?
No.
We haven't touched on it much, but his comments this week
talked about
were weird as poop.
And he walked him back a little bit.
He said, so asked about Drake May not running in the end zone. He said, "You'll have." What was his exact quote?
He kind of walked him back the next day, though.
My answer is no.
He's coming back,
but he will for sure be on a razor's edge next year.
Yes,
absolutely. They don't want to waste 2 years of Drake May in that regard. And to your point, Mike,
he said you
can't
said
do those comments.
I didn't about Alex Van Pelt not letting Drake May run in the red zone. And then after that, apparently Alex Van Pelt said, "What are you talking about?" So a weird situation for sure. I think he will be one. I think he will be one and done.
You think so?
I think he will.
I don't.
Okay, I think Kraft, after seeing Belichick, and almost always knew that they were not going to get the guy they wanted as the head coach this year. And with Drake May, the way he's played, you could get the guy you want. And people will want the organizational stability that is New England also to go there as a head coach. I do think he'll be one and done.
I don't.
And just like when you have that kind of weird dysfunction this early on.
You did see that. Did you see the video of the Kraft sitting there, and Jonathan Kraft was talking to his father, and he made a comment about the play calling. They read his lips, and it looked like he was commenting on play call. So that's never a good thing. But I don't think they fire. I think they'll go. I think I'm with you. I think they go in next season on.
I say, unfortunately, they're not going to fire him, and I've been saying this shit stinks all season, and not just the product on the field, but more importantly, the things that he says about his team.
Yeah.
And it rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah.
Regardless of what you think about a player or a team, don't bring it out on Front Street.
I'm with you.
Keep it in house.
Don't say it.
What happened to the Patriot way?
That stuff. I mean, it almost feels like, and not to the degree, but oh gosh, why am I blanking on names? Who was the Browns head coach when they went 0-16? When it was just like, it was worse than
Kitchens?
No. The guy came from Cincy. Gosh, but it felt like similarly where it's just like you had things aren't going well. It was his first year, and it's like they went 1-15 his first year, and it went worse than they should have. And you had weird stories coming out about the locker room.
Who is that?
And then they're like, oh, we're going to bring him back. And then they went 0-16 next year. And it's like, that's what this kind of feels like to me. Hugh Jackson. Yes. It feels like Hugh Jackson
called me Jake Long on my visit for 3 hours. He called me Jake.
Oh, that's terrible.
I was just like,
I love Jake Long when he was in Cincy.
I've known Hugh Jackson a lot. I love Hugh Jackson.
He called me Jake for 2 hours.
He calls me my brother's name, Richard, I think.
But just like hints of organizational instability coming from the top that I don't think improve over time. Like we'll only get like, you're only sowing like hardened divisions in your coaching staff and the locker room that then will be exacerbated in the future years. That's what I worry about with what I've seen.
Yeah, they're marinating in their own shit right now.
He forget about football part of it. All the other stuff is kind of magnified who he is, I think. But you're right. You don't say that about your team. You don't call him soft. You don't come out and question your coach. It's always put the blame on somebody else and not me. That's what that sounds like. And
it's crazy coming from a guy who played in New England. And It's the same kind of thing that I've had gripes about in Las Vegas with Antonio Pierce. Like some of the things that he said, not to the extent that Mayo has had it happen, but it's shocking to me in a league where guys that play feel like they know how to handle the guys that play well. Well, it's obvious that they don't know.
Well, plus they both came from places where the two coaches were disciplinarians.
Yes,
Coughlin and Belichick.
Yep.
And you didn't learn from that.
Maybe they'll learn the wrong lessons from that. We shall see. But I think he's gone. Did Josh Allen, final one here, secure the MVP with his performance against the Detroit Lions?
Yes. And people saying that Lamar Jackson tied it up against the Giants, they just don't understand what it's like to have to match production with a team like Detroit, in Detroit. And while Lamar Jackson had a fantastic year and his season thus far has been better than his previous MVP years, that doesn't matter. It matters about who's the most valuable player in the National Football League, and that's Josh Allen right now. And it's obvious to me.
5 losses. Was it 2?
Yeah.
I mean, or is it 3?
3.
3. That's different. And they're going to run I think you look at the Bills' schedule, they should run the table. And that's going to tell you the difference right there. And yeah, if you want to talk about numbers, Allen's numbers were better than Lamar's numbers last year, right? Weren't they?
I'd have to look.
It was last year was, I can't believe it ended up being as lopsided as it was. I think statistically,
when you look at the touchdowns and everything, his numbers were every bit as good, if not better than Lamar's, and Lamar won it. But now Lamar had the better record. Now he has the better record, and his numbers are comparable, and he's carrying that team. So I think this is Josh Allen's moment. It's his moment to win it.
I think it's still neck and neck. Now it won't be. I think Josh Allen, from like a pure voting perspective, did. From my objective, who I think was the most valuable player in the NFL this year, I think it's still neck and neck. There's 3 more games left.
Can you believe he was voted the most overrated player in the National Football League?
You know, it's funny because that was there was a guy who they did this thing before when I was there, and it's preconceived opinions that guys don't want to admit they were wrong about.
Mm-hmm.
And so they go back to it and they keep saying it. Well, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. You got to admit you were wrong. Look, I was one of the few guys that was absolutely 100% right about Josh Allen, but I'm one of the few guys that was absolutely wrong about Will Levis. Okay. So admit you're wrong.
I was going to let you slide on Levis.
No, I was wrong about him. He's discombobulated and up there. He sees things that he doesn't need to see. And I think
he's playing like a bat. He's chirping at the wall.
But
they played off sonar.
Yeah, dude.
You liked him too, didn't you?
I got one more debate question.
I did. Yeah.
Should we throw guys in jail that fumble the ball at the goal line? Straight to jail. Like they should have should have a small sensory deprivation isolation.
I don't get
jail cell in every stadium. You know, they have a drunk tank where they bring people that fight and stuff.
Well, in Philadelphia, they used to have jail.
They need to have a little mini one for anybody that fumbles the football.
You. I don't get it. What's the point about taking the ball and not securing it until you go through the
Joe Burrow talking about this is embarrassing. You know, we stink. I think he was talking about maybe that play, the touchdown by the defense.
It might have cost them a playoff berth. Right?
Very likely. I mean, it was one of the highest leverage plays of the weekend.
It was 20-7. That game's over. The way Bo Nix was playing, that game was over. And they win that game. They're scheduled the next 3 weeks is a joke, they're going to make the playoffs. And as it turns out now, they're not making the playoffs. So one bad, dumb, stupid play, because that's what it was, cost them a chance to go to the postseason. Whew.
Oh, boy.